recording of this meeting is being made and shall be kept for 30 days as public record. Pledge of Allegiance, read by Dr. Robinson.
Stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Roll call. Superintendent is here. Dr. Joe Robinson, Mario Gutierrez, and Jim Bender is absent. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Gutierrez, second by Robinson. All in favor? Aye. One absent. If you wish to make a public comment, please email Sally Gaxiola, which we have an email. Comments from the public.
All right, for June 10th, 2020, Isabel Heredia message to the board and Mrs. Gaines. First, I want to thank you, the superintendent, and the school board members for the certificate of recognition. All right, Ellen. First, I want to thank the superintendent and school board members for their certificate of recognition. I was glad to get recognized, and now I'm broadcasted on YouTube, so I feel so famous. It was an honor to serve my school and appreciate all the kind words Mrs. Gaines spoke of me. Hopefully, I will come back next year and fill Dwayne's seat as a representative of RHS. Thank you again, student board member.
We don't have anything from RTA, CSA, no report. Okay, next in line is CBO, Mr. Hart.
Thank you. To do a quick, not deep dive into the budget necessarily, but just an overview of what's gone into the process itself in the budget, following the county's guidance, following the guidance of the school services and other organizations that do analysis of the current state of things in Sacramento. So here we have, the first slide, just some quick statements about the condition of things. And this is, most of this slide is a template provided by the county as an overview of the condition of things and guidance to sort of drive really the messaging around their guidance to local districts and how to develop the budget. You can see from this, what you will see from this is a dramatic impact of the COVID-19 quarantining that led to the crash of the economy. And so, they're estimating 4.4 million unemployed in California. What's not known from that is how fast the economy will be recovering once people do go back to work. So we'll wait and we'll hope for the best in that scenario. It's higher unemployment projected than the Great Depression. And most important from my perspective is sort of this bullet point with the major sources of revenue for the state. When you think about how heavily funded public education is by the economy, if the federal government, when the U.S. economy catches a cold, the rest of the world gets sick. In California, when California catches a cold, that public education, catches COVID or something. We really crash because of it. There's a high emphasis on high income earners providing a significant number when they changed the tax rate structure a few years ago. That made us more vulnerable to this kind of crash in the revenues directed towards public education. So there's a $54.3 billion shortfall and estimated for public education moving into next year. It's horrible news in general. not necessarily horrible news for all of us because demographics matter. So if we look at the next slide, these are the sort of assumptions that we've been told we needed to plan for. We've heard 10% cut, and it is a 10% cut in my opinion, but the 7.69% cut that's here represents only what would have gone up as Prop 98 guarantee. So on the base of our LCF revenue would have been this 7.69% increase. Missing from that is a little over 2% that was the original proposal for COLA. The COLA is at 0. If you add the two together, they came to about 10.2. So in terms of looking at budget numbers, this is what pops out at you as you look at the budget report. You can see a negative 7.2% reduction in that first line of revenue, and it's pretty much tied to this. There's some other revenues in that summary line of LCFF revenues, and so our impact was a little bit smaller than others in that area. Switch to the next slide. Thanks. Two big points of relief, and I'll come back to talking about these, but three big points of relief, and they're all going to be treated the same as we move forward, so I'll come back to all of them. Special education was, we've been hearing all of this year about the new money coming into special education as an attempt to equalize and make more fair the baseline funding for special education across the state. A number of districts have higher base funding formula than we do. And those are the large districts: San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco. They resisted this, and the more the economy turned down, the more they resisted seeing new money put into special education for some and not all. We're not there yet, but it's very likely that we will see this money. It would have resulted in that $100 per ADA and the $85 per ADA. Now, it's not included in our budget revenues by advice of the county office. And it's one of those don't count your chickens before they hatch scenarios. And that's the case with all three of them. STRS and PERS, as you know, I'm sure you've heard over and over again about the increasing pressure related to the employer cost of pensions. They've been escalating over the past few years. They're all slated to go up around 2% for the coming year. That relief has been canceled. We expect to see it fully implemented. So we're still going to have increases to our STRS and PERS costs because of step and column increases across the board in the district, but we won't have that additional 2% pay, and that's a significant amount. And then the last piece, also not included in the budget model, mitigating student learning loss. And this is the money that we heard, I believe Superintendent Gaines has referenced here in this context, money for things like summer school to try and make sure that anything lost by students because of distance learning happening without preparation and learning could be supported on the back end with new initiatives. So this money is intended for new initiatives. We don't yet know if we're absolutely going to have it. It's not included in the budget. And when it is included in the budget, barring some very specific activities that we can make a strong argument for, it needs to be for new efforts to really target students who have demonstrated a loss and trying to catch them up. And so when that does go in the budget, I expect that it will not only increase the revenues, it will increase expenditures because we'll have to have different ways to spend it. So that one's not such a bad pot of money to not have in the budget at this point. So where are we financially? What did our LCFF revenue actually do? It went down by $1.4 million. I had originally said 2.5 based on the 10% amount. So we did better. Why did we do better? We did better for a couple of reasons. One being that we were held harmless we could go on prior year ADA. So that kept our ADA at the level it was for this year, funded for this year. And so stopped the small but yet significant, meaningful drop in ADA that we were going to see. We had to count this year's numbers to fund next year. On the other side of that was we have seen a significant increase in our unduplicated pupil count in this district. And so as we calculate, not the base funding, but as we calculate the supplemental and concentration funding, those numbers go up significantly because of that increase. It's almost a 10% increase from where we were at this point in the previous year. Then we have other offsets. Special education enhancement of $281,000 is in the budget. And if I said it wasn't, I apologize for that. First one and the third one on the previous slide are not in the budget. This one is in the budget. STRS and PERS contribution doesn't look significant, but $61,000 can save a classified position. That is potentially in the budget. Other considerations from the LEA, we didn't have any other real sources that contributed to help in this scenario. But our actual revenue reduction overall should be around $1 million. So missing here, and I left this on the slide because we were told not to put it in, this is potentially another $1 million. So as we look at what we have left to close, this basically has the potential to balance our books. And if it comes through in July, it's good news. When we revise our budget in August, we will have a scenario where we're really looking at essentially having the same program we have now, minus a few tweaks that we would have made anyway for programmatic choices that the district is making. So one more slide. So the way we had to close the gap was to demonstrate actual reductions that we would make in from the current year budget as we move into next year, so that the county knows we have a plan. I've created about 3 scenarios. They reflect best case scenario to worst case scenario, and this is sort of the middle of the road plan because that's all we needed to get to a positive budget certification. That was the real goal. Coming from where we have been for a while, to certify as positive a couple of weeks ago and then certify as negative now would have looked, I think, not only sad, depressing, bad, it would have been very confusing to the public as to how could you call yourself positive and now you're calling yourself negative, even though we can point to the economy. And I think it was really important that we do take every effort that's necessary to stay positive. In the budget, we've been carrying a number of open positions. Open positions are simply someone left. We didn't take them out of position control, so it carries the budget number, and the money is just not being spent. And so it's when you were to look at the budget document every year, you would just see an underspent line at the end of the year. There are a couple of lead CSO positions that we have identified in that area, the Crown's position that we've identified in that area. And that's not to say that we don't want to see those positions come back. But they've been filled with subs for a long time, which in and of itself is not necessarily the best course of action at any point. And so we've taken them out. It covers a significant part of our loss. And it's easy because from where we are right now, there's really no impact to students. It's a minimal change, if anything. One-time expenditures that have not been that are not going to be expended in 2021. Sorry, this is $200,000 of software and similar items that are redundant to other things that the district has been using. And so by stripping them out, we're taking away some things that maybe teachers or administrators around the district like to use, but they have another option that has been what the district has promoted in general. And so it's, to some, maybe a minor loss, but it's not a complete loss because they can still accomplish essentially the same thing with other tools that the district is providing to everyone. Ending balances from 2019, I say we don't have any because we barely had, positive dollars on our bottom line. We didn't meet the 3% reserve. We're not projected to meet the 3% reserve at the end of the year. And for that reason, we don't have any to rely on. Where we do have ending balances to rely on is when it comes to cash flow. Those are in the other funds. And next week I'll present that a little bit because I think it's important to talk about cash flow coming into our budget cycle, because I think that is going to be our most difficult challenge to make sure as we move forward. Get a county off, which is cash only, doesn't affect the fund balance numbers you'll see on the next line, but it will affect our cash, which affects our ability to pay as we go. And our revenue does not necessarily tie evenly to a monthly outflow of money. It tends to come in at very specific points in large chunks of money, and December being one of them. So we don't want to run out of money in the summer. We don't want to run out of money in November. And so we have to monitor cash as the state moves toward deferrals. And the last piece here is other considerations. And this $160,000 is the best round dollar estimate that I could come up with working with our partners, our third-party partners around the Prop 39 project that's been going on, the replacement of lighting, replacement of thermostats in rooms so that will be controllable from a central location, and then the gym lighting and multi-purpose room lighting. That's a significant transformation of technology, and it should save a lot of money. That those are high energy consuming spaces in a school. So we estimated 160,000. Unfortunately, that number is not as solid as I would love it to be. So it's on the low end is what we estimated. The Prop 39 did not require us to say this is how much money or this is how many kilowatts of power we're going to avoid in it. It was simply show us the old technology, show us the new technology, and we'll agree with you if we think that there's a difference, and they gave us the money. So 160,000 is a low estimate for what we think we possibly will save. We expect to have that work done by the end of June, which is good news because we did have a slowdown, but we're back on track. So there's another $410,000 of avoided costs. One more slide. So we've addressed this from the perspective of the best way to do something is to cut things that aren't around right now but are still being carried in the budget because there's no impact. Avoid costs because there's minimal student impact for any potential avoided cost. And the third thing would be reductions. And while we have pointed to some reductions, and there will be, a list of things put in front of you to look at the next day, we have time between now and the beginning of the school year. And I want to repeat this because I think it's important to say the word reductions to anyone that hears it. Between now and the beginning of the school year, we will have better information from Sacramento. They should have a budget in place that will clearly spell out how bad it's going to get or how bad it's not going to get. If a few of these things, even that are on this presentation, that's not being reflected in our budget, fall into place. If we close that $1 million gap, there's very little we'll have to do in terms of reduction, and they will be less for budgetary reasons than they would for programmatic reasons or philosophical reasons of how we wish to allocate our money moving forward. This is just a quick snapshot of where you were at the beginning of the year. Before I got here, July 1st, you had an almost $3.4 million deficit in the general fund, staring you in the face. You did the hard work last year of making serious cuts, which is why we didn't really, in any way, not that you ever do, but we really didn't relish the idea of having to do that again. So I'm happy with where it's turned out. And you can see, as we move into 2021, the work that you did last year did indeed pay off. I got here in October, and my first interim report showed a significant decline in that gap. That $3.3 million was going away. We were on our way to having about, I think, $81,000 surplus at the end of this year. And now it's even higher, which is good news. Our revenues came in a little higher, our expenses have been a little bit lower, and so we've made continued progress. We program of have a net increase projected for the close of this year of 4.15 million. That eats up entirely the beginning balance deficit and leaves us with almost $800,000 in the ending fund balance to move into the next year with. So I say that's the number I was pointing to when I said before we don't have any one-time money to throw at our structural deficit for the coming year because we're under the 3%. Next year, our revenues are projected at 39.9 million or 40 million, largely due to decreases, as I said, in that base funding of the LCFF, but there are other cuts. ACES is taking a hit. CTEIG is going away, but that was away here anyway. And then some of our other career technical grants are taking a proportional hit, and so the budgets there have been reduced proportionately, largely able to avoid any sort of necessary staffing reductions because there's enough equipment and other items in those budgets to absorb what was been lost. So it's a slowdown of the program in one sense, but not a stop or a decrease. None of those pathways had to be considered for elimination at any point. So as we look to the end of this year, we're popping up significantly. We have a net increase of 2.4 million from the coming year, which we were told was the difficult year. So the actions we've taken, the fact that we came out a little bit better in terms of a revenue calculation than other districts will, leaves us in a good place. The county has been, when I first saw the numbers, I tentatively said I think we're going to be okay, thinking we would land more over like 800,000 and just sort of stay status quo. As I continue to work on the revenue numbers, I can see them climbing and holding, and the county has gone through this 3 times with me now, and so I have more confidence that I haven't missed something in it. They feel the budget is very, very close to 100% accurately reflecting what they said. We will continue to go through it between now and next week to look through and see if we find any additional slight modifications that need to be made. But we have made huge progress in constructing next year's budget. And I say we, and I include the county as our partners, but I also include Lisa here in Human Resources because they do our position control, which is the first step of getting all of our people into the budget. Without my ability to fully trust those numbers and fully understand what is or is not in position control, we have a significant risk in having an accurate budget. And Lisa spent a lot of time working with me. I appreciate her giving me her time. And so the numbers are really solid. I now know what's in position control and what isn't. And so we're looking at a positive certification, a truly positive certification at the end of next year. And we will show positive from now and through the interims and to the end of next year. The difference will be that by first interim, we will not owe the county money anymore unless something significant happens with cash deferrals. And I'll put that out there only because that in that case, that would be a positive thing from the county and a positive time for us to owe money. Because we are in the place where we are right now, owing them money and having come off the deficit that we had coming into this year, it's very unlikely that anyone would loan us money for a tax revenue anticipation note at this time. So we will access money from the county. We need to potentially from the county treasurer. They all have legal rights to do short-term borrowing to keep the people who are contributing to the pool afloat if there's a cash issue, not a bankruptcy issue. So I think we're in a good place moving forward. I wanted to give you not real quick, but pretty quick explanation of what's going to be presented next week, where we'll go through in much more detail all of the budget assumptions, but won't review necessarily this as closely. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I think it's good news all around. We have a plan if we need it, and we have the summer to take action that would need to be if we had to terminate or lay off any employees. But at this point, we don't want to cause the undue harm and alarm that goes along with making reductions that we then find out 2 weeks from now we don't need to make. because the state comes through with their budget, or the feds come through with their $3 trillion package that will make us all more than wholer, I think. But thank you for your time.
This is the Associate Superintendent, Ms. Hargis.
Good evening. Over in Ed Services, we are tying up some loose ends, through the school year, putting some closure on that, and then working with Mrs. Gaines and the rest of the cabinet to, figure out what it's going to look like for everybody next year. So I wish everybody a great summer, and we'll be working hard. Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Ms. Gaines.
Thank you, President Sanchez. Good evening to everyone. I wanted to just say that as we just completed 1 year, we are already working on what August 12th will look like. And I want to take this opportunity to thank CSEA President Gary Jones, RTA President Jim Quellman, and all the members of my cabinet, because this past week we received the digest from the State Superintendent of Schools, which was 62 pages in length, and also the recommendations from the California Department of Public Health. In reading both of these documents, we're given some great guidelines on what some possibilities are to open our school in August. And so we'll be working on creating 2 or 3 different plans to bring to the board in mid-July for them to make a selection on what our actual return to school will look like in August. I want to say to the parents who might be listening, a survey went out to all of you. I really, really encourage you to answer the survey. I need your input, especially with regard to, I gave you some samples of some possible programs that we would use when we implement our return. And so I'd love to hear from you which one you like or which one best suits your family. Tomorrow, I want to say that we're beginning our negotiations with RTA, and I look forward to hope Mr. Quellman gets a good night's sleep tonight and comes in very friendly in the morning. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I also want to say that we are waiting on, I know that we have a lot of sports enthusiasts out there. We are waiting to hear from CIF on progress with regard to sporting events in the fall and next year. We should have some update from CIF Friday morning around 9 o'clock. And so I think that pretty much covers everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. Board member communications. Mario?
Hope everybody has a good summer, and we will continue to work on what needs to get done with the reopening of our schools and how that's going to look. And that's it. And the graduations went really well. Totally different than what anybody has ever seen, I think. But it was enjoyable to see that the kids got to have a graduation, and it went off really well. I was very impressed with the way everything went out. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. I did enjoy the graduations also, especially getting that personal contact with the parents and seeing their reactions. They're normally in a sea of, out there in the sands and the sea of faces, but we got an up close parent-student thing, and it was kind of fun to have a different perspective on that. And I also would like to thank Mrs. Gaines for completing her year of service to our school district, and she has really tackled a lot of things, and she's always working, and I appreciate how much better a position we are in this year because of all the work that she has done. So thank you, Mrs. Gaines, for your hard work.
I just want to say for everyone to enjoy your summer, stay safe and healthy, and practice your social distancing. I too enjoyed the graduations. It was really, really exciting to see the parents and grandparents be excited about their grandson or grandchild, graduating, or their son and daughter. And it was an experience and very personable. And I know that you had a son graduate too, right, Ms. Hargis? Yes, I'm sure you enjoyed your graduation. Was it a drive-through? Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Tensley.
I want to thank the staff, the students, and the community for being the horsepower, making a successful year for SKUSD. A lot of work went on last year to make this year get us into a better situation. I want to thank all the work in the budget department, Mr. Barth coming on board, really getting it done. All the hard decisions Ms. Hargis had to make last year to make this year better. And, this COVID thing on top of it didn't really help out, but everybody pulled through, did amazing, and I want to thank everybody for that.
We have consent items 8 through 4, or do we have any questions on any of them?
I'll make a motion that we accept.
Actually, I do have some questions about the rental agreements. I am so surprised at how much more a restroom is to rent than a regular classroom. It is way smaller, but a lot more.
There's a lot more plumbing, a lot more.
Right. And most of them are the same, except for the one on page 31. It's the same thing, but maybe I did my math wrong, but it seems like this leasing fee is double. Did I?
For 2 years?
Restrooms. I think one had one restroom at 4,400, and then the other one.
Oh, these are restrooms too.
Multiple restrooms.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
So they are restrooms also.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why. Just not as expensive. And that's all. I was just trying to make sure that they were equitable, and that was my question.
Okay. Motion by Tara, second by Tansky. All in favor?
Aye.
And that's it. I'll get employee approval of amendment to the 2019-21 contract of employment for job title superintendent.
All right, agenda item, approval of amendment to 2019 through 2021 contract of employment for the superintendent. The board will now consider a proposed amendment to the current 2019 through 21 employment contract for superintendent. The board met with its designated labor negotiators for this contract, and the negotiator stated that an increase was in order. Under the current employment contract, the superintendent's base salary is scheduled to increase from $159,000 to $163,770 with a positive evaluation on July 1st of 2020. The board reviewed the current data concerning salaries for similar duties for superintendents in 13 Kern County districts of similar size or smaller, as well as the 2018-19 statewide data from the CDE. We found that superintendent salaries in similarly sized districts and significantly smaller districts exceeded our district schedule. For example, the following are sample salaries schedules for districts in Kern County of similar size. Fairfax Elementary School District had 2,540 students, and their annual salary was $178K. Lamont Elementary School District had 3,034 students, and their salary ranged from $170K to $177K. Mojave Unified School District has 27,013 students, and their salary was $170K. And Standard Elementary School District has 2,947 students, and it's estimated their salary is at $183,506. The statewide data revealed average salaries of $200,403 for school districts between 3,000 and 4,000 students. The current actual enrollment of SKUSD at this time is 3,519 students. Also reviewed the salary schedule of certificated employees and found that the average between salary column steps was 4.5% overall, with increases ranging between 3.13 and 4.61% for the individual columns. The proposed contract amendment would create a salary schedule which we believe will better serve the district to attract and retain qualified superintendents. It would implement an additional 2 salary steps, each 3% higher than the prior step, which is consistent with and less than the average percentage increase steps for the teachers. It is proposed that the superintendent be placed on step 2 on the new schedule at $163,770 based on the amount already agreed to in the current contract for fiscal year 2021. The final step, effective July 1st, 2022, would be $173,744. These increases will require an overall positive evaluation for the prior school year. It is the view of the negotiators, and the schedule establishes pay parity as demonstrated by commensurate compensation earnable for superintendents performing similar duties to their school district employers, and reflects a schedule with annual increases commensurate with the percentages increase granted to the majority of district employees, the teachers. It is the recommendation of the board, labor negotiators, that the board adopts these findings and approve the contract amendment.
I call for a motion. Is there a motion to determine that the amendment to the 2019-21 contract of employment, including the attached salary schedule effective July 1st, 2020?
Hold on just a second.
21.
Okay, there was a typo on the proposed talking points. The final step, effective July 1st, 2022, it was extended to 2023 with a 3% each time on the pay salary schedule.
On the page salary one?
The amount is right of $173,744, but it's extended to 2023. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, is there a motion to determine that the amendment to the 2019-21 contract of employment, including the attached salary schedule effective July 1st, 2020, is first, in the best interest of the district to attract and retain a qualified superintendent? Second, to establish a pay parity as demonstrated by the commensurate compensation earnable for superintendents performing similar duties for other school district employers. 3, to implement additional salary steps reflecting a percentage increase commensurate with the percentage increase between salary schedule steps for the majority of the employees certificated. And 4 is to approve as presented.
I will make a motion that we accept the amendment to the contract.
Motion by Gutierrez, second by Robinson. All in favor? Aye. 1 absent. Board policy, second reading, review, and approval. Ms. Gaines?
Yes, these are the same board policies. These are the same board policies that you saw at our last board meeting. I just want to remind you that in the section B, the option for board policy 3551 for food services operations is option 2. The personnel are paid out of the cafeteria fund. So that was verified and confirmed by Mr. Bard. So everything else is pretty much, it's just the same.
Do I hear a motion?
I do want to discuss suicide prevention for a moment. In the text of the, it's a pretty significant policy, and it needs to be posted on our website, but it does talk about all staff having an hour of training annually. I just want to make sure if we're putting policies out there that training is met. I know it's hard to get training in the district for everybody, and an hour is pretty significant when we can't even get a PD day filled, with the 6-hour training. So when all this adds up, all these little things that are mandatory that we have to have trained and should be tracked through HR, all this stuff in there is adding up as we go. So we need to make sure we're going to have time to get this training so we're legal. If we're putting these board policies out, we need to abide by them or don't have them. Right? And we have qualified people for all that. I can remember a day when we couldn't get CPI training. So time is adding up throughout the year, and there's not that many opportunities. So let's make sure as we pass these that we can meet that, or it doesn't need to be in the policy. Okay?
And that's on page 82 where under training, it does say at least annually. It doesn't say may. So, but I understand all what you're saying. So at least we'll get it annually.
Just listening to Jonathan, we have other mandatory trainings that HR sends out through CSRM, and so we need to go through there and see if there isn't a training that we can also mandate through there to send out that people do that themselves, and they end up with a source of
It says it needs to be done by school counselors or psychologists.
Okay.
I may be wrong there, but
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Tanksley. I actually talked with our Director of Special Education today, and as you mentioned, the logistics is the issue here. It's getting the entire staff trained in this, but she believes that this is a training that she and perhaps Miss Alicia Cambaliza can provide for our entire staff. She wrote the manual. She's very familiar with the mandates in that manual. So it'll just be an issue of how we're going to do that. Perhaps we have to do it one school at a time.
And she also does a CPI training as well, right?
Yes.
I believe. Okay.
I'm just concerned with all the time that we're seeing in all these policies. It's adding up to a lot of hours, and I know those hours aren't there. So what's going to give?
Do I hear a motion? Motion by Gutierrez, second by Dr. Robinson. All in favor? Aye. One absent. New board policy, second reading, review, and approval. Ms. Gaines?
Yes, these are the same board policies, primarily focusing on working remotely and distance learning, which basically was we used during our COVID closures. And you saw these at our last board meeting. They're just brought back for your approval.
Those are all in the MOU that we made with the different unions, correct?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the policies.
Okay. Motion by Gutierrez, second by Robinson. All in favor? Aye. One absent. Board policy 5144.1, second reading, review, and approval. Option 1, Ms. Gaines?
Yes, this board policy also has been brought back for your review and approval. Option 1 that you selected last time gave the board permission to, if necessary, if we look at Ed Code violation 48900, letter K, disruption of school activities or otherwise willfully defy the valid authority of supervisors, teachers, administrators, school officials, or other school personnel engaged in the performance of their duties. By selecting option 1, you are stating that the Board of Trustees can expel or suspend for in grades 9 through 12 for such a violation.
Your motion?
Motion that we accept that option.
Second. By Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
One absent. Review for approval 2020-21 district-wide revised student dress code. Ms. Hargis.
Thank you. So what we've done is we've gone through and we've updated our dress code. Our previous dress code was a little bit old, so we thought that we would go through and update some of those things and add some things. Really not too many additions. Now there is one revision. So if you look at page 2, under hats and headgear number 2, I added the word hoodies. So that is the only addition that I would ask that we could include in that. And it says students will not wear hoodies / headgear in the classroom. And so we thought it was important to bring out hoodies because you have those kids that walk in, they got those earbuds in and try to kind of slide in there. So we felt really we wanted to call, hey, you know what, not only do not want hats in the classroom, but we don't want hoodies in the classroom as well.
I actually have a shirt that has a hoodie on it. So the way the policy is, it's a kind of almost a dress shirt. And that would be illegal to wear according to this.
It's not that you can't wear it because it's under hats and headgear. You can't wear it on your head in class.
Well, then we need to clarify that on that policy.
Do you want it just to say hoods?
Hoods may not be worn in class. Hoods.
Well, we can just put another line there that says hoods will not be worn in class.
Leanne, we can just address that and bring it back next week.
Yeah, I think we probably need
Because if a couple of them have questions, we'll probably have other questions from the public. So we'll just change that.
Perfect.
I did have a question about the dress code under accessories.
Uh-huh.
Because what I have observed is not according to this dress code. It says hair must be of a natural color, spiked hair, mohawk, spray painted hair, and unnatural hair coloring are not permissible at school. But I have observed these things at schools.
Well, so that's why we put it in the dress code, because we're saying, you know what, we want you to come to school to learn, not to be a distraction. So once this is approved, then we will get it out, we'll put it on the website, and we'll get it out to everybody as soon as we can.
Okay, so this is a new policy.
This is new, yes.
Oh, okay.
That was going to bring in a lot of controversy.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of parents who are.
Do you think, Mr. Gutierrez, when we talk about hair of a natural color here, if you walk around, and I probably should, if we walk around our schools, we don't see a lot of this, but we see more of it, primarily at one of our sites than others. And we're talking about the blue, the green, the purple, that is an unnatural color. I just think that it's distracting. And if it's not allowed at the high school, for example, it should not be allowed at any of our facilities, younger or lower than the high school, because I think it needs to be a uniform dress code from K all the way through 12, so that it's not a shock when they get to Roseman High School.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying I think it's the right thing to do. I can tell you that we looked at other districts also, and hair, not wearing hair should be worn natural color is prevalent in most school districts right now.
So that,
I assume that'll be on the employee dress code.
I was just gonna say that would have to also be applied with the.
We haven't got to that dress code yet.
That's right.
But
Something we have not.
Well, how can you expect a student to, abide by it, and then you have a teacher coming in with purple hair?
I'm not saying I.
No, I know, I'm just saying that
We, have to work with that, and maybe, RTA, CSEA, maybe they'll have some, suggestions, as far as, with working with their members, that would be willing to just make this a universal dress code, versus just a student dress code. But right now, we're just working on the student dress code, and we'll broach the rest as we can.
because I know that some teachers also have peers.
Yeah,
No.
if we're gonna, like piercing
Yeah.
of nose, if we're gonna approve this for the students now,
Yeah.
and we don't know if it's gonna go through for the teachers, how is a teacher gonna look at a kid and say, take that nose ring?
Right, and they have one on,
Or a 2-inch hoop,
right?
where you're only allowed one. If we don't have a lockdown that we can lock down the employees, we're gonna have a revolt on our hands.
Yeah.
It's already happened last year.
Mhm.
I know an administrator that wrote up a student, and the parents told the administrator, look how you're dressed. They look at that, you know that.
Sure.
And that's the first thing they're gonna throw back, and what's our argument?
That's,
You're right, and then as soon as we give that inch, this whole thing's trashed.
Mhm.
Because now we're saying we need to wear, what are we gonna pick and choose? So I have a concern there, if you don't have a lockdown, which is, the way we're kind of talking here, you think you may have trouble locking down some of these things for the staff, then why are we gonna hold the kids accountable for that?
I totally agree on that too. I mean, why not do one for the staff as well, since you're just introducing this one, and address it to RTA and CSEA, just like we're doing with the parents.
Okay. We definitely can do that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Because if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna expect the students to abide by this, they're gonna look at adults.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I mean, even with the dress code where it says about,
I mean, I'm on board with all this.
but what about number 2 on the shirt that says no low cut tops? You go into one of the school offices and the staff, it has a low cut. I'm like, okay.
Well, yeah,
you
and
expect-
no offense to Justin, but he knows I watched that video bulletin for that.
Which one?
I watched the video bulletin for dress code violations.
Yeah.
Because if we see it on film, and I've told him that past, that is published out on YouTube forever.
Right.
And unsafe acts. I also look for unsafe acts as well. But that's out there forever. And once we allow that, they see it, and that's an accepted policy. You'll never get the genie back in the bottle. So I fully support this, but I think that we gotta make sure the staff,
Yeah.
if it's in here, it applies to the staff as well before we release it, and then we can't get the staff pinned down, and we've got 2 different messages sent.
I agree.
I've been arguing that point for years.
And then I got, so what's the consequences here? Ms. Carnes? Kid comes in, has a hemline or slit on the dress that is above the mid-thigh.
An administrator would call a parent to say, can you bring your student
Okay,
something that's appropriate?
can we put that on here?
Sure.
Because nothing in here will cover it unless it's disruption in school, unless she's got a spiked hair and somebody can't learn, so we call it disruption. If you're in high school, we call it disruption if we're somewhere else. So, I mean, it's great to say all this, but what's the consequences and what's gonna happen? They need to know that as well. And it may be in here, but let's refer them to the discipline guide if it's in here. Are we sending them home? Are we gonna lose ADA because we sent them home because we're gonna check them before they come in when we're doing their temperature check? If they don't come in that day, are we losing money because we're doing this? What's the intent? What's the payoff? How much are they distracting or unsafe versus what are we losing?
And the administrator, and all the administrators have to be on board too, because you have some sites that allow, certain items, and then they go over to the high school, and then they're expected to abide by that.
Every CSO needs to know it, every teacher knows it. I would give kids 6th period that I would write up for dress code, and they've obviously been there 5 other periods. So that tells me 5 teachers didn't identify it. So why am I identifying in 6th period looking like a tail hole because I'm trying to abide by the rules. So, I mean, we've got that as well. So, and this is another part of education. We train on this.
Sure.
You know, and stuff like that. This is another, where's that time going? It's gonna take an hour to cover that. Where's that time going?
Yeah, and I've also seen on the pants the sheer leggings. They're not allowed.
Yeah.
Sheer leggings. And yet you see teachers on. I mean,
I agree with everything everyone's saying, but I do want to make this comment. Teachers do not always have the same rules as students. They should be examples, yes. But do they have to follow exactly the same rules? They are adults.
They should.
And you know,
If you're in a regular workplace like mine, we have certain rules that you have to abide by in dress code. And if you don't have the proper dress, or you get sent home.
I believe we had a employee hurt last year that was wearing flip-flops. That was a safety issue, right? And when we did the research, they weren't supposed to be wearing it.
Yeah.
And nobody was enforcing it.
there
So
was,
there's already that stuff out there as far as, and most of this is safety. The 2-inch hoops that gets ripped out of the ear, that's safety. All the shoes, stuff like that. Most of it is safety.
Right.
Being the distraction, you know, the painted hair and stuff like that, is a distraction. Yeah, they are adults, they can choose to do it that way. But the kids distracted. How many kids have painted hair at graduation? You commented on everyone. You sat right beside me, right? Did that attract people? Did the hair away from the graduation? I'm just saying, maybe that's one we give. You can have colored hair, and teachers can have colored hair if, what's the distraction there? Not necessarily saying that's the case, but some of these can maybe let up on because they're not safety and stuff like that if we're going to be so hell-bent on enforcing some of these. Maybe it'll make it a little
I think it's at the elementary level too. I've seen, third grader, second grader coming in with a mohawk.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they think it's cool or something, so it's like, what are we gonna do with the second grader, He has to go get his hair cut, I don't know.
I'm not saying shirt tie every time for the teacher, but some say other day. So we'll hold off on that one?
We'll just table this. What we'll do is table, E, review the approval of the dress code. And who makes the motion?
I make a motion.
There's the table.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Absent. Personnel items, Ms. Gaines.
Yes, it's pretty much self-explanatory. We have a list of our classified and confidential employee resignations. We had one retiree and was certificated. We also had some resignations, and we had a couple of our teachers who transferred from one of our sites into another site. So pretty self-explanatory.
Make a motion to approve all personnel items.
second,
Second by Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
One absent. Title I school site evaluations and targets.
All right, so each year, all of our Title I funds that we expend at our school sites, we are required by state mandates to evaluate those programs. And by evaluating them and then figuring out how we are going to monitor them and how we're going to make them better for the future. So starting off with Rosen Elementary, So one of their expenditures is Read 180 and System 44. They do have that in 2 third grade classes, 2 fourth grade classes, and 2 fifth grade classes. So it has some whole group, some small group, and then an independent study portion or independent learning portion for that. So looking at this chart that they put together for us, it looks like in the first quarter they had numerous students that were below basic, and for each quarter thereafter they were able to reduce that amount. So they do feel that that is something that is working for them in third grade. You know, unfortunately for fourth quarter, we don't have any data. There were some students that were still able to do that while they were at home. Here's Read 180 for fourth grade. Again, they had a lot of students over there in the below basic, and they gradually were able to reduce that number for each quarter.
Is this scale?
Yes. And so here's fifth grade. Fifth grade was a little reluctant getting started, but once they got started, they really saw the value in it, and they were really able to make some strides, some significant strides from first quarter to second and then third quarter as well. And then, so here we're looking at, oh gosh. So I was commenting on the below basic, but if you look over here at the basic, so there they had more students increase in that area as well, and they had some students that started off in proficient, you know, and worked their way up to advanced. So we do really find some value in the System 44 and the Read 180. Paraeducators. Now, so we have 6 paraeducators at Roseman Elementary. In working last year, we did go through a federal program monitoring, and this was one of the areas, it's a little bit gray because it is difficult to prove the effectiveness because there's no hard and fast data to attach to a person versus attaching to a program such as System 44 or Read 180. So how they use their paraeducators is they've kind of pushed them down to the lower grades. So they have some, they have one paraeducator in transitional kindergarten, 2 transitional kindergarten, 2 in kindergarten, 2 first grade, 1 in second grade, and then 1 in third grade. They do all work in small groups or one-to-one with students. They do that for both English language arts and math. Because there's 6 paraeducators and they divide them, their time with each classroom is limited because, you know, we have 6 kindergarten classes, you know, and so on. So their time with those students is limited. So how they chose to show growth at Roseman Elementary was with the STAR ELA and math benchmarks. And they did show some growth. So if you look down here, here's our where they started the pre-test. Most of those students started out at 0.02, which is pre-primer, and they made almost a first grade. So they made, you know, 6/10 of a year of growth. So generally we hope our goal is to make a year's worth of growth. And I think we probably could estimate that, you know what, if they had that fourth quarter, because this is August through March, they take that last benchmark in March. So looking at that, we probably could say, yeah, you know what, they may have had the possibility of making that whole year's growth by the time the end of the school year came. You know, we didn't have school, and then of course we didn't take those benchmark tests, but they definitely showed some growth. And this is just an explanation of what I just talked about. For first grade, they also showed some growth. So if we come up here, the same chart is up here on this one. So here's the grade equivalent. So they started right there where kindergarten left off. You know, they were a little bit below first grade. They made almost that whole, they're showing an entire year's worth of growth, and that was from August to March. So they are saying that, you know what, those those paraeducators are contributing to that by working with those students that are struggling. And so down here for math, they're saying that they made 113 points growth for first grade. So that is significant growth. Second grade, same thing. They made, they started off just a little bit below second grade in August, and were able to, make that progress through March, about half a grade level. So they were a little bit behind, but certainly they could have increased that growth by, the time we had gotten to June. Down here at math, they have, they gained 77 points or 7/10. So they were a little bit higher in math than they were in language arts. And third grade, same thing, started out a little bit below at 2.6, needed to 3.2, so 6/10 of a year's worth of growth. Math was a little miserable. They were there at 7/10. So certainly, had we had that last quarter, we probably would have made that entire year's worth. And then he went on to talk about his parent engagement opportunities. That also is part of Title I. This is an area where lots of districts, including ours, struggle to, try to get, parents in to see what their students are doing. And certainly moving forward, it'll be a little bit tricky as well. But they each year they have a TK kindergarten meet and greet, back to school night, parent conferences. Each school that is Title I has to have a Title I parent meeting, usually in September or October, to talk about the Title I program. Student of the Month awards, quarterly awards, PTA, school site council meetings. We have 8 to 9 of those per year per school site. Each school site, has some volunteers. And then also some of the things that he has, he is big on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, newsletters, and the website. So that is Roseman Elementary. And the principals did put this information together for us. I just let them know that, since we're doing our social distancing, I would be more than happy to do that for them. So, and there's Elementary. And so here we are on to West Park. And so, same thing, some of the things that they use their Title I funds for. We have our classroom paraeducators, I read for K2, and then System 44 for third grade, and fourth grade and fifth grade have System 44 and Read 180. Accelerated Reader, IXL, she did add that on there, but that is not a Title I expenditure. Some parent engagement as well. So again, paraeducators, a little bit difficult to prove, but we are doing our best to show that there is definitely a need. There are 6 at West Park, just like there are 6 at Roseman Elementary, and they push them down to work in the lower grades. Sight words, fluency, then they also, work with math as well. And she has her statement of effective use. The use of paraeducators is effective as they're able to provide interventions in a small group that she put together. As far as looking, and the ELA benchmark is exactly what Roseman Elementary had on theirs as well, showing that they had an increase in kindergarten of 143 points. And for kindergarten, they only do the early literacy. There's not a math portion for them on there. They spend a lot of time doing letters and sounds, so they have found that an increase, and so you see 37 on there, and that's a combination of letters and sounds. Uppercase letters, as the same, and also working on on sight words with those beginning readers. So first grade, again, they have the same ELA benchmark and math. So 157 points of growth. Their fluency has increased, and math has increased by 111 points. So they do find that just that one-on-one interaction in small group with those paraeducators, that is, they do find value in that. Second grade, again, they have made over a year's worth of growth. Their fluency has increased, and then also increased significantly as well. And then this is iRead. So, and what iRead is it's an intervention / enrichment program, and it can be used kindergarten through second grade. And they use that on their iPad. And what they do is they take an initial diagnostic test, and then it'll place them where they need to start. So if there's someone that really does well, maybe they're going to skip 4 or 5 sections and they're going to start in section 6. Someone that struggles, really maybe doesn't know the alphabet, doesn't know letters and sounds, then they start back at the beginning. So looking here at iRead, you have your total number of students that started in level A, and then you've moved 21 students have moved over to level B. 23 minutes, so if you look at daily use for kindergarten, first and second, it generally is a program that you would use maybe 3 or 4 times a week and maybe decrease some of those minutes for some of those younger students. I think we might find, as in working with the school sites, and I see these kinds of things, that's kind of something that comes to mind, that we might have moved a few more over in that time span. So
I have a question on iRead.
Yes.
Roseman Elementary is not doing iRead?
You know what? They did not add it to their chart, but yes, they are.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they are.
They are using it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's where. So you can see, and then first grade, they actually moved a significant number from level A, because if you imagine, most of these all started together in level A, and so they had 96 they were able to move forward. And then again, second grade moved numerous from level A also to level B and on to level C as well. So this is a program that's more student self-paced. So I think if it was a little bit less time, they get a little bit farther, because 23 minutes, you start to wander. But we definitely will work on, it's a matter of when do they have the iPads, do they have to move them from one classroom to the next. So they kind of have to improvise, but that's one of the reasons why we bring our evaluations forward, so we can say, well, this is what we did this year. This is the progress we have. How can we make it better moving forward? So,
Like I said, iRead's been going on for years and years and years.
we have had it probably 5 years. I want to say probably 5 years. And so System 44 is generally what we use in third grade, although we do have some fourth and fifth grade students that use that as well. And so, I lost my train of thought. So they move forward in those, and they have the 3 different areas that they move through with. It's about an hour, and so they do this during their universal access time. And so they have that independent learning portion. They have a teacher-directed portion, and then a computer-based portion. So, and then, so this is what I was looking for on the Read 180. So really what we want to look over here is our average Lexile growth. So of all the 36 students, the average, they were able to increase their reading level by 114 Lexile points. So, that is significant, 58 points. Any points that you can move forward and helping students to read and become more confident is significant. So, we do find that this is a highly effective program, moving everybody. Now that all of our teachers are more familiar with the program, expected that student improvement will increase. And so what we've done over the last several years is, along with purchasing the System 44 and the Read 180, we've always invested in the coaching. And a couple of reasons why we have invested in the coaching is we have a lot of turnover as to who teaches the program. So we always want to make sure that teachers are, able to, not just throw in this program and say, okay, have at it and good luck. We want to make sure that, they know the program, they're comfortable with the program. And then also, we do also on the other side have teachers that have taught these programs for quite some time. And it just increases that knowledge and increases their comfort level, and all of that translates into student achievement. So that professional development is important. We usually have a couple of days at the beginning of the school year where HMH will come and they'll train the teachers. But then the rest of the year, what they do is they come in to the teachers' classrooms and they come in alongside and, see how they're doing. Or, and if someone's struggling, they don't hesitate to say, hey, do you mind if I teach a lesson to your class? And you can, watch how I do this. So HMH is very collaborative in how they work with the staff. And we have had the same couple of trainers. We're fortunate. They're excellent trainers, and they've been with us for the last few years. So that also is a plus. So Accelerated Reader, this is a free reading program. And so what I mean by free reading is students are, they have a level, say their level is 3.5. So they pick books within a certain range, and they just read for pleasure, and they are able to earn points for reading those books.
Starting all these programs, is it safe to assume that the child is, if they start in kindergarten, they'll stay in it until they graduate out, or however you word it? Like when we see iRead, you see kindergarten, and then first grade, you see a bigger group moving over, and then third grade, a big group. So are they learning as they go and staying in that program until they get to a point where they move on? Or
So kindergarten and second grade, they're all doing iRead. So third, the System 44 and the Read 180, those are for students that are struggling. So we might have students that when they finish second grade in iRead, they're good to move on to third grade. But we, we'll have some students that really struggle. And so during that universal access time, there's an hour carved out of their day. And so we have a couple of teachers. They separate their students according to, abilities. We might have some students doing System 44. We have our English learners. And then, we might have some students that are doing maybe a novel study or something else during that same time period.
in fourth and fifth grade until you get to a point where you transition out?
There's a point. So if you can, do well enough, you can move yourself from System 44 to Read 180 and then Read 180 out of the program. That really is the goal.
Is that what we're seeing? A lot of big gains from year to year because they still may be programming. They're learning that program and then they move on. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a percentage of how many fifth graders have graduated out of iRead or the System 44? You said from System 44 they go to iRead or sorry?
No, iRead is the kindergarten through second grade program.
So it's the Read 180 and the System 44.
I don't have a percentage.
You don't have?
I don't.
Because, I mean, it seems like the fifth graders are having a tough time when they go to Tropico.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe instructional aids can be used.
And that is something that has been discussed, just trying to the majority of our Title I funds have been at the elementary schools. And so now we're trying to work to where, we're going to disperse those funds a little bit more equitably. And that may mean, some of those paraeducators moving to Tropico in different capacities, even maybe some at the high school, to help with some of those students.
Mrs. Hargis, would you just explain a little bit about that we do have Read 180 at Tropico, and also that accelerated reader is really, you don't have to be a struggling reader for that.
Oh, yes. This program right here is simply reading for enjoyment. So what they do is they can, it becomes, it's kind of like a game. So you read a book and then you take a test and then you earn some points. And then in the past, you were able to earn a prize. I don't know exactly what they do at each school site, but you were able to earn a prize. Say you had 10 points, you got a pencil. If you got 300 points, you maybe were going to cook with the principal or something like that. This is for everybody. It's not for anybody that's struggling. It's for everybody, and just for the enjoyment. They do not receive a grade on that. That's just reading for enjoyment.
It's for their free reading time.
Mm-hmm. And if the teacher uses accelerated reader correctly in the classroom, the whole premise of accelerated reader is based on a gentleman by the name of Vygotsky, and he created this that the students are to be stretched in their zone. It's called the ZPD, and if they're reading at a 5.5 level, you would want to get them a book maybe at a 5.8 or 5.9, so that after they've completed that book, they have the words or the vocab's a little more difficult, and yet they are able to grow in their reading comprehension and reading level. And then they sit at a computer and take a little quiz on that book, and they have to get a certain percent to get a passing mark that tells them to move on to a higher zone.
So what, fifth grade, you have 78%? How many students? 127?
Yes.
Out of all the fifth graders?
So that's an average.
Huh?
Yes, and that's an
their
average.
test scores. They get 78%.
No, the 127, fifth grade.
Yeah, that's the number.
127, the number of students.
That's the number of students.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. The
Yeah,
number of
that's the
students.
number of students.
Thank you.
All right, and then here are her parental engagement opportunities. She continued that. Lots of different opportunities. Oh, and this talks about her newsletter, her website, Twitter notes. Gotta go home. And she has just a quick 4 minutes, so a little less than 4 minutes, but roughly 4 minutes. She wanted to share the end of the year parade that the teachers went around Rosemont. you. All right, and last but not least, Tropico. All right, so first thing on the slides is they have the opportunity program out at Tropico, and that is funded by our Title I funds. Students that are credit deficient, generally 8th graders, may find themselves in this class. They work with the A+ program to complete the credits that they're missing, and then to begin work on classes that they needed in order to promote to the high school. So here's what here is what the class looks like. They are, putting their goals together. They're, so that they can have a plan as to how many credits are they short, how many credits do they need, what do they need to get there. They're learning how to study, learning how to take notes. As I was reviewing his PowerPoint, I thought to myself, okay, well, kind of looks like maybe like a rare earth class where, that's exactly what they're doing over there while they're working on their classes. They're required to take notes, and they're required to do those things in order to get credit and be able to take the tests. So that is something that they're also learning in this 8th grade opportunity class. It's a smaller scale class, I believe. He said there were 15 students in that class. So the teacher is able to get around and, maybe work one-on-one with some students that might really be struggling. And we talked about, some of those redistribution of paraeducators. And so, that might be, something for that case. So here is the teacher put out, these are all the students that were in that class, and anybody that is, and it's really hard to look at, I counted, it's about half the class completed every class that they needed, and then about half of them, lacked a few classes or something that they needed to do. And so, again, as we're doing our evaluation, we're always looking for ways to improve. And so the teacher felt that, to improve this class, that opportunity could best be improved by looking into another online program, maybe something like a CELUS like we have at Rare Earth, might be a better choice. And then they also have System 44 and Read 180 at Tropico. They had one 6th grade class that was general education students, and it was an intervention class. And then the other couple of classes were RSP and SDC classes that participated. So, they felt that System 44 and Read 180, really important to open the minds of students, especially those struggling readers that, are really hesitant to, want to kind of put it out there. Gosh, I'm in middle school and I'm really struggling. I really don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing in front of my friends. So they felt that, this program, it really met the needs of those students because they were able to choose books that, were high interest, but maybe on a lower reading level. So, students were able to, have that book out, with their friends, and their friends are going, oh, that's really a little book you got there. So that was really important for those students. And this is some data from an RSP class. And they were able to show, 50 to 100 points worth of growth this year. One student, it looks like, made significant growth. And they felt that every couple of years, they have a couple of those students that are really able to make significant growth. Most students that are in SDC or RSP are, 2 to 3 years below their grade level. So really for them to be able to make those kinds of gains is, really important for for them to succeed, and really get caught up with their peers. So they had 3 students that are ready. It looks like 3 students that are ready to exit in this coming year. They have had some success where in the past couple years, they've had 6 RSP students that moved out. So they might have gone through System 44. They might have started at Read 180, but they were able to move out of special education. They are mainstreamed into general education classes, and they are maintaining good grades. So, that definitely is a success for those students as well as the program. So it shows when you really put the program into place where it's going to be beneficial for students. Students will succeed. So System 44. We did have a few issues out at Tropico this year as far as getting the program into play. It'd be about 15 minutes, and it has the same 3 tiers where it's a teacher-centered portion, a computer portion, and then an independent learning portion. So where it states time on there, that is the computer portion. So what that really should look like is 15 minutes. It should be 15 minutes, and it should be 5 times a week. So I think we had some teachers that kind of felt like, my students are really struggling. Maybe I'm going to try to do a few other things as well as System 44. So, that is one thing that Mr. Adams and I have, been in discussion with as to, how are we going to change this? Because we have seen success. We see success at the elementaries. We have seen success in the past at Tropico. This year has been a little bit difficult for whatever reason. Just, like I said, I think teachers, when they don't see sometimes immediate success, maybe they go, oh, it's not working. I got to try something different and, throw this, that, and throw that. So we don't get the results that we're really looking for. So, the average Lexile of the students was about 400. Read 180, so the 6th grade, that was our general education classroom. For whatever reason, they did not make any progress. Again, we've talked about how are we going to fix, so how are we going to fix the program so that it is beneficial, because there is a lot of research behind System 44 and Read 180 to say, what, if you do it with fidelity, it's successful. So, just a few changes, maybe, finding, a coach to go in, and maybe spend a little bit of extra time, maybe changing it up completely. Maybe the teachers that they placed in there, maybe that wasn't the best fit. Sometimes it takes a very special person, not only to work with middle school kids, but to work with middle school kids that are struggling. So, it's just kind of finding and fine tuning and finding that right fit. And I know that we will. So we're going to keep working on that. And here is the 7th grade class where we had, a couple of students that scored very high and, were able to increase their Lexile by 131 points. Mr. Adams also implemented a middle school success series. He was going to have 4 of them this year, but unfortunately was only able to have 2, excuse me, because of, school moving off site. So really what he was, working on was sort of the success program that they had at the high school, where they're talking about, organization, motivation. We are going to be bringing AVID back to Tropico. So, AVID can also address some of those things as well. And we're looking forward to having that back soon. And then here are some of his parent involvement opportunities that he had. All right, and that is it. Any questions? All right, any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hargis. That was information. Okay, next on the agenda is approve the Southern Kern Unified School District revised discipline metrics. Ms. Gaines.
Yes, President Sanchez, this is our wonderful Sally changed the cover so that you would know that this is the most recent edition. We can continually make little changes. Pages needed to be numbered, and so we did that. I want to take this opportunity to Mr. Tanksley made a comment today that this was nicely done, and I want to thank there were teachers and administrators who served on this discipline committee, and they really took this creating this matrix very seriously. And so I want to make sure that the board is aware that this was a collaborative effort from in between the site administrators and many of the teachers at the site served on the committee as well and provided input. So for the most part, I believe it's a finalized document, but there may be another, would be a small change if anything down the road.
You are correct, Mrs. Gaines. Mr. Tanksley did say there was a lot of hard work went into this, and it really looks good. I think we went from a one-page document, well, 2 pages, one was Spanish, one was English, to a 20-page document, which is amazing. But Mr. Tanksley also said this is only going to be good as the people using it. If we put all the hard work into making a 20-page document and we go back to what we've been doing in the past, we might as well just throw it in the trash and save our time and not do it again. It's only going to be good as the people using it and using different methods besides suspension or expulsions. There's plenty of examples in there. And it's got to start with teachers too. It's not just on administrators. Teachers got to use classroom management procedures and look in here and see what they could do for certain behaviors before they automatically kick them to the administrators to handle it. So I always have a second comment after I draw the first one out. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hennessy.
I will make a motion to accept the matrix.
Harris, second by?
Second.
Dr. Robinson, all in favor? Aye. One absent?
By the way, I did want to say that I was happy to see something concrete and that's not arbitrary. You know, it's all written out here, and we may have to tweak it as we try to work through this and train a little, but I'm glad to see that we've got some sort of plan going forth because we really need to see some consistent discipline plans.
And will this be included with the annual parental rights? You know, at the beginning of the school year, is this part of that?
The matrix?
Yes, discipline. Because
It won't be part of the annual notice, but we will need to get that out.
annually, yeah. And then in Spanish, translated in Spanish as well. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, second by
Second.
Dr. Robinson, all in favor? Aye. One absent at 8:51. Thank you and good night.